Luke!
Han Solo called from the Millennium Falcon's cockpit.
Come on, kid, move it. We're on a tight schedule here.
They're in, Luke Skywalker's voice came back. Ramp sealed. Han already knew that from his control board readouts, of course. If the kid stuck around, he'd have to learn not to clutter the ship's atmosphere with unnecessary chatter.
Okay, Chewie, hit it,
he said. Beside him, Chewbacca gave a rolling trill of acknowledgement, and the Falcon lifted smoothly off the hard-packed teardrop ground. Apparently not smoothly enough. From behind, Han heard a couple of muffled and rather indignant exclamations.
Hey!
Someone shouted. Han rolled his eyes as he fed power to the sublight engines.
This is absolutely the last time we take on passengers,
he told his partner firmly. Chewbacca's reply was squarely to the point, and a shade on the disrespectful side.
No, I mean it,
Han insisted.
From now on, if they don't pay, they don't fly.
From behind him came footsteps, and he glanced back as Luke dropped into the seat behind Chewbacca. They're all settled, he announced.
Great,
Han said sarcastically.
Once we make hyperspace, I'll take their drink orders.
Oh, come on, Luke chided him. Anyway, you think this bunch is stiff, you should have seen the ones who got out on the earlier transports. These are just the techs who were in charge of packing up the last few crates of equipment. Han grimaced. Crates which were currently filling the Falcon's holds, leaving no room for paying cargo, even if he managed to find some on the way to the rendezvous. This was going to be a complete 100% charity run, like everything else he and Chewbacca had done for Luke and his new friends in the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, well, I've seen plenty of useless techs before,
he muttered. He was waiting for Luke to come to the tech's defense when a splatter of laser fire ricocheted off the rear deflector.
What the?
He snarled, throwing the Falcon into a tight drop loop. The instinctive maneuver probably saved their skins. Another burst shot through the space they'd just left, this one coming from a different direction. Han twisted the ship back around, hoping fleetingly that their passengers were still strapped in, then took a second to check the aft display. One glance at the half-dozen mismatched ships rising behind them was all he needed.
Pirates!
He snapped to the others, throwing power to the engines and angling the ship upward. Facing pirates deep inside a planet's gravity well, with no cover and no chance of quick escape to hyperspace, was about the worst situation a pilot could encounter. And even the Falcon couldn't outmaneuver this many ships forever.
Chewie, get us up and out,
he said, throwing off his straps.
Come on, Luke.
The kid was already on it, heading down the cockpit tunnel at a dead run. Han followed, rounding the corner in time to see Luke duck past the passengers crammed into the wraparound seat and head up the ladder to the upper quad laser station. Captain! One of the passengers called.
Save it!
Han shot back, grabbing the ladder and sliding down toward the lower quads. He caught himself as the gravity around him did its 90-degree shift, then dropped into the seat. It looked even worse from down here than it had from the cockpit. A second wave of pirate ships had joined the first, this group pumping laser fire all around the edges of the first group, forming a deadly cylinder of death around the Falcon's flight vector. They were trying to force their prey to stay on that line so that the first group could chase them down. Well, they were in for a surprise. Keying the quads with one hand, he snagged his headset with the other and jammed it on.
Luke!
I'm here. Any particular strategy, or do we just start with the biggest and see how fast we can blow them apart?
Han frowned as he got a grip on the control yoke, an odd idea whispering at him. The way that second wave was positioned.
You go for that big lead ship,
he said.
I'm gonna try something cute.
Luke's reply was a blast of laser fire squarely into the lead pirate's bow. The other ship swerved violently in reaction. Clearly, they hadn't expected this kind of firepower from a simple light freighter. The pilot recovered quickly, though, settling the ship back into its position in the battle array. The entire lead wave moved closer together, closing ranks to get maximum protection from their overlapping shields. Han watched closely, waiting for the obvious next move, and heard the twitter from his display board as the lead ships all shifted shield power to double front, which meant they just unavoidably lowered the strength of their aft shields. Perfect.
Chewie, dip and waffle,
he ordered into his comm. The The Falcon dropped suddenly in response, and for a second, the rear wave of ships was visible past the edges of the first wave's shields. Han was ready, firing a double burst past the lead wave into the flank of the biggest second wave ship, sending it into a violent swerve as its primary maneuvering system was blown to bits. And as it did, the laser fire that had been forming that part of the Falcon's entrapment ring sprayed with shattering force across the sterns of the lead wave ships. It was everything Han could have hoped for. Two of the smaller ships veered instantly and violently out of formation as their engine sections blew up. The first ricocheted a glancing blow off of one of the other pirates on its way to oblivion, while the second slammed full tilt into another. They fell away together, with Luke taking advantage of the distraction to blow one of the other lead ships into fiery dust. Then, to Han's shock and disbelief, the Falcon dropped and turned into a curving arc back toward the planet's surface.
Chewie?
He snarled.
What in the...
The Wookiee growled a warning. Frowning, Han craned his neck to look in that direction as the familiar shape of an Imperial Star Destroyer swung into view around the dark edge of the planetary disk.
Han!
I see it.
Han said, his mind racing. Clearly, the rebel cell on Teardrop had gotten out just in time, except that the last half a dozen members of that cell were currently sitting a couple of meters directly above him in the Falcon's lounge. If the Imperials caught them here... Then his brain caught up to him, and he understood what Chewbacca had been doing with that last maneuver.
Luke, shut down!
He ordered, slapping the switches on his own quads. The last thing he wanted was for the Imperials to do a power scan and see that the Falcon had this kind of weaponry.
Chewie, give me comm!
There was a click.
Emergency!
He called, putting desperation into his voice.
Incoming freighter Argos, requesting assistance from Teardrop planetary defenses.
There was no answer from the ground, of course. Given the shady character of most of the planet's residents and visitors, Han wasn't even sure they had a real defense force down there. But then, he didn't especially care if anyone on Teardrop heard him or not. All he cared about was,
Freighter Argos, state your intention and emergency.
a clipped military voice responded.
Medical Mercy team from Briston, responding to the recent groundquake on Porsta Island.
Han called back. Behind the Falcon, he saw the remaining pirate ships were reforming to continue the attack. Apparently, they hadn't noticed Teardrop's newest visitor.
We're under attack! I think they're pirates!
Argos acknowledged. Hold your present course.
But if I do...
He never got to finish his token protest. Behind him, a 2x2 group of brilliant green turbo laser bolts sliced across the pirates' formation, blasting 4 of the ships into rubble. This time, they got the message. The survivors broke formation and headed off in all directions, some back toward the ground, others trying to escape into hyperspace. Neither option worked. Calmly, systematically, precisely, the Star Destroyer continued to fire, blasting the pirates one by one until the Falcon was flying alone.
Now what?
Luke murmured in Han's earphone. Han ignored him.
Many thanks, Captain. Glad to see the Empire is taking this pirate problem seriously.
You're welcome, Argos.
A new voice said.
Now turn around and go home.
What?
Han demanded, trying to sound both outraged and stunned.
But Captain,
That's an order, Argos. As of right now, Teardrop is under Imperial interdiction. Go back to Briston and wait until the block has been lifted.
Han allowed himself a sigh.
Understood,
He murmured, careful to maintain a straight face. Sometimes a particularly clever and perceptive man could sense a satisfied grin even over an audiocom channel. Not that this particular Imperial appeared to be either clever or perceptive.
You heard him, pilot. Turn us around. Again, Captain, thanks for the rescue.
He climbed out of the quad seat and headed back up the ladder.
Captain Solo, I demand to know what is happening.
One of the passengers said stiffly, as Han crossed the lounge on his way back to the cockpit.
We're taking you to the rendezvous,
Han told him, putting on his best puzzled and innocent look.
Why?
Before the other could recover enough to try the question again, Han made his escape.